Good morning. Thank you. Love you. All right, let's see if we can get this right. Good morning. Good afternoon. This time is a little weird for me. I'm Stacy. This is Loving My Veteran, and we are walking in my shoes this afternoon. It's weird for me to be on this time zone or this time. So I'm going to give people a minute or two because this is not when we normally do this. I had an appointment this morning I had to make, so I just pushed the time back some. Let me give you the disclaimer that we always do. We are not paid counselors. We're not professionals. If you need help, reach out and get it. And all the information in here is copyrighted to Loving My Veteran. So I just wanted you to know that so we could get all that out. Now that we got all that nonsense done and over with, we have a sip to drink and we'll get started. This time is so weird and I'm not getting all these little people popping up like they normally do. So do not forget tonight, Medicating Normal, the movie. It is a private screening. It is before the launch of the film. So you're going to get to see it before other people see it. It is tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It will replace our Let's Talk. You cannot use the Let's Talk link. You cannot use the Let's Talk link to watch the film. You need to purchase the tickets. The link is everywhere. It's through Everbright, but you need to purchase those tickets. They're $10. We're also giving away a ticket at 3 p.m. this afternoon to anybody who makes the comment, shares, or likes the page. We have that out there as well. So we're giving away a free ticket to that. So that's really important that we do that. So if you have not gotten your ticket to see Medicating Normal, it is an incredible film. Please do so now. This will be the only screening that we have and it will not be paid back. So just wanted to throw that out there to y'all. All right, so this is going to be a very personal story for me. This is called I Understand More Now. When we first formed Loving My Veteran, myself and Carl and Jeremy were sitting around a table. Most of y'all know this story. We were sitting around a table at my mom's, and as we had this conversation, we realized that the biggest gap was that we didn't understand their perspective. We had never walked in their shoes. They had never walked in our shoes. It was tough to see it from that perspective, but that was the basis for Loving My Veteran, and how it came into being was to be able to see it from both sides. So I'm going to share a very personal story with y'all today. It's an emotional story for me. It is very hard for me to share. I did put on waterproof mascara. Not sure that's going to make it work, but we'll give it a try. So let's talk about their perspective. First of all y'all know that I have PTSD from my EMS, and we know that that is very different than combat-related PTSD. So I do get those emotional things that pop up as well. Okay, so I do have my PTSD moments as well. But from their perspective, you know, we step into this caregiver role. We do that. We do it because we love them. We do it because they need it at times. We do it. And we tend to step away from the partner role. So we step into this caregiver role. Well, when I got sick last year, Carl, by the grace of God, was there to step into my caregiver role. We don't always realize sometimes exactly what that is like. So as my health decreased and my ability to do things decreased, Carl stepped in more and more. Initially, he just came in like both feet first into this. And it was like, here it's 8 o'clock, have you had your medicine? Here it's 12 o'clock, have you had your medicine? And I felt like I was too dumb to be able to take my own medicine. And so that took a lot away from me. It took a lot of my self-esteem away from me. He goes to every doctor's appointment with me, and I am blessed and I am grateful. But early on, I needed to go see my primary care. I was just having a tough time, and I needed to go see my primary care. Well, my primary care physician I've known forever. So I just wanted that me time. I wanted my illness to be about me. So I think about it from their perspective. We jump in as caregivers and we're like, did you take your pills? Did you go to therapy? Did you make your appointment? Did you do this? And we give them this piddly little list that we do. And y'all, I found myself resenting that. I found myself, he wasn't trying to step on my toes. He was trying to make my life easier, but I found myself resenting that. The fact that I wanted to go see my doctor by myself for one visit to make it about me and not about the illness was important to me. And I don't think that we get that. I didn't realize it until just the other day. I have been in a very dark place the past few days. So that's why I'm sharing this story. Early on in my diagnosis, when we battled to finally find out what it was, so I get the PTSD TBI thing. Initially, we thought it was a cold. Then they said, oh, it's probably COVID. Then they said, oh, you've had a pulmonary embolism. And so the list kind of went on, and it'll cure itself and you'll get better. I didn't. And so this struggle to find out what it was horrific. And of course, I'd lost my job, so couldn't work. So I lost my health insurance. And then when we applied for the benefits, they're like, oh, well, you live in Georgia, you're a female, you're not pregnant, you're not addicted to drugs, and you're not on renal dialysis, you're denied till you're 65. And I'm like, what do you mean I can't get Medicaid? I mean, not that I wanted Medicaid, but I had worked my whole life and I had paid into it, just like our veterans had served, and they paid into these benefits that they deserve. Okay, so my brain started to think like they did. And it was like somebody took this big red rubber stamp and stamped on the file of my life, your life doesn't matter. So I think that sometimes the struggle and the way that the VA pushes them away and the way that people discard them is kind of like the same thing. Your life doesn't matter. Well, my disability is I know, right? So I'm telling you, if I'm addicted to drugs, in renal failure, or pregnant, I can get help. Is that not amazing? But you work for 20 years and pay into the system and you don't get squat. Amazing. But that's how our veterans have to feel. They served. They did their time. They had people blow things up around them. They fought combat. They were away from their family. They did what they were supposed to do, the right thing, and they get back and they need help, and somebody puts a big red stamp on their file of life that says, you don't matter. All of a sudden, I started to see things from that same perspective. And I'm like, wow, this is hard. Same thing happened when I applied for Social Security. I meet every criteria for Social Security. Do you realize that we started the Social Security process in February of 2020? And as of today, they are only 86% finished with my initial application. I haven't even gotten a denial, which most people get. So in the meantime, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do for income? What are you supposed to do? So I think about it from our veterans' perspective. They can't work. Some of them can't work because of their PTSD or their other illnesses. Then we got to go through this rating. I've had all these interviews. I've had to fill out papers. Carl's had to fill out papers. We've had to send them back. We had to do this. I mean, it's like a freaking disaster to get this. Something they're owed. Something I'm owed. I have paid into Social Security. There are points in my life that I have worked that they have stopped taking out Social Security because I've made so much. Okay, and I'm not bragging. I'm just telling you that money is owed to me. That money I paid into a system since I was 15 years old. So this struggle that they have to pay to, first of all, admit they're defective. I mean, that's how I feel. I feel like I had to go admit that I'm defective. This struggle that they go through to have to admit they're defective, and then it's interview after interview after interview after interview, and, well, you're not. My little piece of paper, when I check off the boxes, it doesn't say this. And so we can't give you this, and we can't. You're not living in my house. You're not living in their house. So the depression sat in further and further. I found myself further and further. Medical was hard to come by. Needed, hard to come by. Check. Veterans, medical, hard to come by. Check. He stepped into the caregiver role, took a lot from me that I felt like I could do on my own. Not because he was being hateful, but because he thought he was being helpful. And to me, it took away my independence at times. We do that too. So now we're checking that next box off. Now we're fighting for disability. Same thing they do. So of course they feel it. Of course they feel that. You're worthless, you don't matter, done. Move on. That's the struggle, and that's the reality of what goes on. So what I'm walking through is very much what they walk through. When Carl and I talked about that this morning, he's like, you're right. This is where I am. This is where I've been. This is how I feel. And you're right, Stephanie. It is very, very eye-opening when the roles are reversed. Then the depression set in. Finally got to Mayo. For them to even treat me at Mayo, and it wasn't, my doctors here locally said, your case is too complicated, we're discharging you as a patient, you have to go to Mayo, here's your referral. So my rheumatologist said that, my autoimmune doctor said that, my gastro doctor, which is my liver doctor, he said that. And so I've got the referral, I call Mayo, Mayo calls me, and when I call them back, it is like, thank you for calling Mayo Clinic, Department of Hepatology and Transplantation. And I'm like, transplant what? I didn't even know I was that sick. Transplant what? Oh, yes, ma'am. You've been referred here because your doctor feels that your case is too complicated and you're going to need a transplant. And by the way, before we can see you, for everybody, insurance or not, there is a $15,000 cash deposit that has to be paid. And I'm like, what? Again, big red stamp, boom, we're not dealing with you. That's how I felt. So yes, our veterans feel the same way. No wonder they feel that way. I wanted y'all to get this eye-opening thing that I got. It was eye-opening. It was traumatic for me. Finally get to Mayo, they run all these tests and test and test and test and more tests and more tests and more tests, and get the phone call from my doctor, because your test results appear in your portal before I ever get back into Georgia from Florida. All of my test results are sitting in my portal. Okay, so they're already sitting there. So they call me, and they're talking to Carl and I on the phone, and she says, we can give you this medication to try to slow it down, but you are terminal and you're going to die from this. That takes the wind out of your sails. That takes everything out of you. So the depression, I'm thinking, I've paid for every doctor's visit I've been to since February, every lab test, cash, since February. We've depleted my retirement because I have no income. I can't get income through Social Security. Okay, Carl was working, we were doing cars. Now the doctor's like, you can't be left alone. I can't be left alone. This is not, baby, it's not about a pity party feeling sorry for me. I'm good. I'm good now. It's taken me a long time. I'm okay. But the depression set in. And the suicidal thoughts set in.
Yours? Yeah.
Mine. The suicidal thoughts set in. And they were very painful. To the point that I had a loaded gun. And I gave it to a friend. I rode by his house, and he was another paramedic. He was standing in his front yard. And had he not have been standing in his front yard that day when I was going somewhere by myself, and I was too far away from Carl.
You're not allowed in the kitchen.
Right?
Out.
I was too far away from him for him to come get me. Okay? And so I drove in, and I handed the gun to this paramedic, and I said, here, I'll be back. And he said, are you okay? Do you need to talk? And I said, I don't want to talk about it, just here. Okay? And he took that gun for 30 days because we have an unwritten rule. We have so many suicides in our community, in the EMS community, we just do that. Unwritten rule, 30 days, you can come pick it up. Worst fight Carl and I ever got in. ever got in was the
Yeah,
day
she tried to
that
kill herself.
I decided I was going to kill myself. I was going to wrap the truck around a tree. And I literally had every intention of doing it. And I knew how to do it. I've been to enough wrecks. I could tell you what curve, how fast you have to go, where you got to be to do it. And he literally wrestled me to the ground. And I am laying there in the dirt, screaming, I want to die. And he is on top of me, tears rolling down his face, and said, don't you leave me. So I get that. Yes, that was the peanut gallery. I get that feeling. I get how we feel as the veteran spouses when they get to that low place that we worry about them wanting to kill themselves. He hasn't slept because he's afraid I'm going to die. It is so hard for him to sleep when I lay down and go to sleep at night because he's afraid I'm going to die in my sleep. Not kill myself anymore. I'm past that point. Okay? But that's the reality of walking in their shoes. And then this whole thing that I go through, this spewing the venom, the get out, you need to leave, I don't want you here. It's not because I don't want him here. I love him. But I think about what's going to happen when I die. What's going to happen when I get really sick? Do I want to put that on him? Is that baggage I want to lay on him? Has it ever dawned on you that maybe all of this stuff that your veteran is saying, I want to leave, you need to leave, I want a divorce, isn't because they don't love you. It's because they want to protect you? Has it ever dawned on you that that is the way it happens? Oh, you're right, Colleen, it shouldn't be. We made it through Mayo, $102,000 later, and my doctor at Mayo is so convinced now that I need treatment. He has put in for a grant at Mayo, and I'm a research project. Yay, isn't that special? So we're back to the doctor at Mayo again, you know, and Mayo comes in, and they're like, I talked to hepatology and the liver guy, right? And we knew that when they did the last MRI, there was a tumor on my liver that started in my liver, so it's not metastasizing. Yes, honey, you probably got to go back and watch the whole thing. It wasn't metastasizing there. It was liver cancer that starts in the liver, which happens from cirrhosis, which I have, not from drinking, becomes cancerous, and they know that. And it was really close to that, but wasn't quite in the last MRI. So based on the new lab values I just had done, it is. I agree. It is special. And my primary care was laughing. He said, they're going to write papers about you. I just laugh. But they're sending me to oncology. Okay. They're sending me to oncology to have the MRI done because their oncology is so much better than the hematology MRI. So anyway, that's sometime in May. We're not going to dwell on that. But so now I've got all this stuff going on, right? And the anger is there, and I'm living with it, and the frustration is there. And then I get this random email early on into the care talking about the water. And so I finally go back to it, and I check the stupid thing about the water on the basis. And I'm like, wait a minute. Alameda is one of the Superfund sites. Oh my God, I'm going through this around. Alameda is the Superfund site. And I start pulling it up, and then I start pulling up the toxin, and when I read it, causes autoimmune disorders, liver failure, liver cancer, cirrhosis, everything I have. So I sent the poison list to my doctor, and I said, because they did the genetic testing, I'm not genetically disposed to any of these weird autoimmune I have. Okay, so like one of them I bleed too much, and the other one I clot too much. So they can't give me a blood thinner because I already bleed, and they can't give me an agent to help me clot because I already clot. So they're like, depending on how it is, it's just like totally screwed up. And I'm like, Dr. Wayne, look at this stuff. Could this cause what he has? And he says, I am 90% sure you got this from the poisoned water. So now I definitely feel like the veteran, okay? Now I definitely feel like the veteran who went over, did his job, his or her job, did their deal, did what they were told to do. I lived on the base, because that's where the good Navy wife lived. I drank the water because that's what came out of the spigots. And I have some random disease, like there are thousands and thousands and thousands of us that have this, and the Navy's like, oh no, we knew it killed the fish in 1974, but your life didn't matter. Oh, by the way, now it's 30 years later, you can deal with it. You want to talk about feeling disposable? No wonder our veterans feel disposable. I'm telling you, my life the last 2 years has been walking in their shoes. You want to talk about feeling disposable? The military, the base, and there are 700 polluted sites, 178 Superfund sites that are so toxic that the EPA is cleaning them up. And for me to even be able to pinpoint where I was, I happened to see a news clip on a news station when I was Googling this that showed that they've given the base back to the city of Alameda. Well, Alameda didn't want it because it was so poisonous. And then they've got it, and they took some of the old base housing and they've turned it into transient housing. And then there is this whole slew of them that are falling in that nobody is using. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, you got all these homeless people, but you're not using perfectly good housing? No, they didn't use those houses because those particular houses were sitting on toxic soil and getting the toxic water. And when they did the news clip, there was my house that is literally falling in. I lived on the second floor. The floor is now sitting on the first floor. I literally lived on the second floor, and when I pulled into my carport, it had 105C. And that is the address that they had in the video, is sitting there stamped on the little shed underneath. And I know for a fact that now they couldn't fix the water to these places, so they've gone up and put a chain link fence around them, and they're not letting people live there because it's so poisonous. But it's okay to give it to me? Well, it's not just me they gave it to. Okay, they gave it to thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people. So anybody, this is my new screaming match, anybody that has an autoimmune disorder that lived on a military base needs to find me, because I'm pissed off now. They did the same thing to our veterans. The PTSD was caused by their experience, and they're like, you don't have PTSD. You don't have a brain injury. For crying out loud, Michelle's husband was in a helicopter crash. I'm not the brightest bulb on the tree. I am a paramedic, and I do understand mechanism of injury. But when a helicopter falls out of the sky and hits something hard, okay, your head is going to hit something. I assure you, you have a TBI. And they're like, oh, we're not sure you have a TBI. What the hell do you mean you don't have a TBI? You fell out of the sky and you hit your head. And then they're saying, well, yeah, but the water was killing the fish, but I don't really think it was killing the humans. Have you lost your mind? Yes, I'm pissed. So now I really do understand what it feels like to walk in their shoes. I feel disposable. I feel like nobody gave a damn about my medical, just like they don't give a damn about our veterans getting appointments made. I understand what it's like when you overstep your bounds as a caregiver, which is a huge mistake, by the way. When you overstep your bounds as a caregiver because you think you're doing the right thing, and in reality, you are taking so much away from them. I understand what it's like to be in such a dark place that you think you want to die. Been there, done that. Won't do it again. Been there, done that. Because there's something about those words terminal illness that make you all of a sudden not want to commit suicide. I have sat here for the last 3 days in the deepest, darkest place that the only two people on the planet who know how I feel are Carl and Michelle. You know what I worry about? You want to know what I worry about? Who's going to sit by Carl at my funeral? And who's going to be there for him? Because it's my job to take care of him too. Has it ever dawned on you when your veteran is pushing you so far out that maybe, just maybe, it's because he loves you and he doesn't want you to sit through what he's going through? That's the reality. That's where we are. That's what it's like to walk in their shoes. And I pray to God nobody ever has to walk in their shoes because it's not easy. Because this whole thing is not easy. It is screwed up. What's happening to them is screwed up. And the same thing with the Social Security. You want to deny veteran benefit after benefit after benefit after benefit after benefit. They own that benefit. That was promised to them. Just like me paying Social Security was promised to me. And in my opinion, if you can't give me my damn Social Security, then you better pay interest on the money I've given you to use anyway. No wonder they feel that way. No wonder they feel worthless. So I'm telling you, Carl and I see it from both sides. We see it from both sides. I see it as the caregiver who loves her veteran. He sees it as the caregiver that loves his spouse. We see both sides. But we also spend a whole lot of time not looking at the illnesses and doing what's important. And that's where we have to get to. You have to live days that you don't dwell on the issue. You have to live days that you don't dwell on the problems. You have to live days where you just have normal based on your limitations. That's what you got to do. Because if I sit here and live my life based on the fact that I'm probably going to die from this at some point, I'm never going to get up off the couch. If our veteran fights suicidal thoughts all the time because they're in such a screwed up place in their own mind, and they fight that every day, no wonder they don't get up off the couch. So look at it from both sides. Literally walk in their shoes. I didn't know what it was like till I had to do it. I didn't know what it was really like till I had to do it. So when I sit here and I tell you a veteran's perspective, and you go like, oh my God, she's sticking up for the veteran, she's sticking on the veteran, she's sticking on the veteran. I don't stick up for the veteran, I stick up for the process. Because I live the process. I live the process.
Yeah, you don't realize how much of us balance so many other people.
Yeah.
It's a veteran thing.
And it is about balance. And it is, and you can't say it's a veteran thing about balancing other people because
I can't.
He says it. Because I balance how this makes my mother feel. I balance how this makes my children feel. I balance how this makes my friends feel. So I do balance multiple sides of the same thing.
I try to balance everybody.
I know you do, and you're good at it.
I am horrible.
And me being sick and all that's going on right now has put him in a place. And he's trying so hard to fight for it and fight out of it. So yes, I am their advocate. Yes, I'm asking the rest of you to be their advocates. Now we really understand why, we can all sit back and say, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong. Nope, I am fixing to scream at the top of my lungs. You mother effers done fed the fish the water and they died. You better be worried about the rest of us who are dying. You want to not give them benefits? They earned them. You want to not be the one behind it? They earned that too. This is what happened. So when you hear me get passionate, when you hear me get frustrated, when you hear me get blowed up, that's why.
Yeah, they don't want me pissed off. They don't want me frustrated.
I know. Love you. He's trying so hard, y'all. Pray for him. And yes, he has the true Gemini heart. Pray for him. This is not an easy journey for him. It's his mission to protect me. It's his mission. You told me early on, it's his mission to save me. And he's fighting a mission that even in the back of his mind, he knows he's going to fail. And that's a hard mission to fight. But you know what? Terminal illness is relative. I could die tomorrow in a car wreck. So I'm going to live my dash. That's where I am. I'm encouraging you to see it from their perspective. I want you to see it from their perspective. I want you to understand it from their perspective. I want you to live your dash. I want you to be a little more understanding and see it in their perspective. And when I tell you to start screaming about these bases, you need to. If anybody has lived on a military base, anybody, you need to send me where you live, because I have 178 of them that are Superfund sites. 178. They cause everything from childhood asthma, which my son almost died in my arms with, that he outgrew. And it wasn't that he outgrew it, it's that the toxins finally washed out of his body from the time he was 5 to the time he was 17. Okay? I had a miscarriage. I have friends that have died of breast cancer. I have a friend with pancreatic cancer. We all lived in one place. And we were a little itty bitty base. We have autoimmune disorders that are out the wazoo. Do you know that more military spouses have autoimmune disorders than any other demographic there is? And not predisposed from any genetic thing? That's where it's coming from. They doing it to us. You know, they may have been their guinea pigs, but I wasn't. So let me just tell you that. My ex-husband might have been your guinea pig, and you made it very clear that I was not issued in Mr. Smith's sea bag. So let me just tell you a few things. If I wasn't issued in his sea bag, you're responsible for what happened to me. You're responsible for what happened to my child. You think I'm kidding, Stephanie, when you look at the water? I literally have this. This is disgusting. This is the list of Superfund bases. This is the list. We're working on one of that Melissa's husband was stationed at with her child that has a child that has an illness that I can't even begin to deal with, because it is horrible. I'm not sharing your personal story, Melissa, but I'm telling you, it is tough. And these are only the ones that are Superfund sites. This is 178. There are 700 plus bases that the EPA isn't even doing as Superfund. And here's the best part. I'm not getting into politics, but here's the best part. But some woman who's sitting up into House of Representatives now, I think she's trying to run it or whatever it is she does, wanted a base taken off of the closure list in California, in the Bay Area. There was Oakland Naval Hospital. Colleen lives right outside of there. It's one of the prettiest places ever, right where she lives. But there was Oakland Naval Hospital. There was Oakland Shipyard. There was Alameda. There was the Presidio. And there was one more. Oh, Treasure Island. Okay, all of those bases were on the closure list. Well, she needed to explain to her constituents that we're not closing everything. She had the Presidio taken off of the list. She is the one of the people who signed a recommendation to the EPA not to count PFAS at 70 parts per thousand, not to count PFAS and even though they know it, and the CDC and WHO says anything above 70 parts per thousand is toxic, it's actually lower now, but she got the EPA not to sign off on it as being official, and then she pulled her base off the closure list. And I have the letter in her handwriting that she signed. And that happened in 1980 something, 89, 90. I have that letter from her. And I promise you, when I'm going to go to Congress, I'm going to walk up and say, is this your signature? Because your signature caused thousands of people to die. Thank you. Promise you that's going to happen. So y'all might want to just start collecting the money from my bail. Well, the good thing about that is when you're as sick as I am, nobody will arrest you because they have to pay for your health care. So it's all good. Anyway, so now you know why I'm on my little thing. But that's what it's like walking in their shoes. That's what it's like. I just needed to share this story. It was very personal. It was very hard for me to share. It is the reality. I am not perfect. I make mistakes every single day. But Stephanie, give me that list. Message me your list of bases. You had to have lived on base housing. Camp Lejeune got away with it because of dry cleaning chemicals from an outside source, but there's still that same list of poisons. And I'm talking everything from chromium all the way down. Yeah, I know, right? I know. So, I'm going to get off of here. We have a lot to do before our lovely, lovely, lovely movie. If you have not bought your tickets, please do so. It will be worth every single dime, I promise you. And one of the panelists is actually the psychologist, Dr. V, who worked for the military. And she's going to give, she is a psychologist. She's the one who prescribes these medications. She's going to be able to talk to you about those as well. So get your list together about medications. Melissa, we're going to get together today and come up with a list of questions for you, and we'll get with you on doing your interview because that story has to be told as well. So I'm going to get off of here because Carl is cooking something amazing smelling for lunch, and it would be my lunchtime, and I love that man because he cooks for me. I'm blessed beyond measure, and I say that every day. So I'm not going anywhere, folks. Y'all got to be stuck with me for a very long time. I'm Stacy. This is Walking in My Shoes, and we are loving my veteran. Have a blessed day. Bye, y'all.